Right, this is the headlight I've got. It's a second hand one. Well, something fairly small. I didn't realise it would be quite this small because the biggest problem I'm going to have is fitting my connections in the back, because I have these wires here to go in there, and if I can't get the connections in there, I'm going to have to come up with some other solution. So it might have to be connections under the tank or something, but I will take the rim off this and just see how much room there is behind the reflector in there. And the other thing I'm going to have to do is make another, or adapt that bracket to fit there. Might need to extend the extend these a bit. I don't want to start drilling in here or anything to fit that. Yeah, so or I might even have to make another bracket to mount this one too. But yeah, we'll see on that one. But until then, I'll undo this screw and see how much room we got. Yeah, that's not too deep. Most of the depth is with the connector there, so I think there should be enough room to get some connections in there, but not with the connections that I was going to use, which was these standard bullets and things. So might even have to do or solder the joints into there, or just use the crimp-on ones if I think I've got some small ones I can use. Yeah, but yeah, that should be okay, I think. I think what I have to do first is sort out a method of mounting it. Yeah, because unfortunately that isn't quite wide enough, that bracket. I think this is actually meant for a modern Triumph Bonneville. I think that's what it's meant for. But yeah, we'll see what we can do. Right, got a piece of 4mm aluminium there. I've just marked out centre holes, or fixing holes where the fork bolts go, and also a centre where that one needs to go through. Get that at the right height. So I think what we'll do, I'll drill the holes first and then shape it afterwards. I think that will give me a better idea of how much to remove around the edges once I've got the holes in. Right, there we are. That's that so far. Only thing I will need are some longer bolts, as they don't even get through to the other side. Yeah, so I need some longer pinch bolts. Right, so now I've just got to shape this to make it look a little bit more something, a bit neater, rather than just a square or oblong plate. Right, there we are, roughed out. Just got to file it down to this line or somewhere near it, round the corners off, and go for a test fit, see how it looks. This side should actually be much better. It's got this plastic on, so I'll use this side as the front, I think. But yeah, didn't take long to do that. Right, I think that will work just fine. I'll only just give it a quick polish over on the mop. That will come up a little bit better than that. But yeah, I think that will do it. Obviously, just got to get some new bolts. I did just find a couple of bolts, not quite long enough, but I just hold it on there for now. Yeah, so that's basically, I mean, this isn't done up or anything as yet, not wired in, but that's basically what that will look like. Does look a little bit on the small side, probably, I think it's a 4.5 inch. Yeah, I was going to put a 5.5 on there, or 5.25, but this one came up on eBay rather cheap, so I thought I'd just go with that for now. Sort of has a look anyway, so yeah, I can now get this wired in. That's everything wired in, including the speedo bulb, speedo light, which isn't fitted yet. So all I've got to do now is hope that I can get the reflector in there okay. If not, it's going to be back to the drawing board. But yeah, that's not too many wires in there, and these are all, well, mostly thin wall. All the ones that I'll put in are thin wall, apart from that one red one there. And these aren't very thick, so yeah, there's not too many connections. And like I say, there's no way I'd have got the standard Lucas ones in there. They've been so much longer, aren't they? But I think these should go in okay. So that's what I will do now. See if I can get the lid on it. There we are. Actually went in quite a bit easier than I thought. There's more room there than I thought there was. So yeah, that should do the job. I think I'm just pointing a little bit too far upright. Just needs to tilt down a little bit, I think. But apart from that, I think that will do. As long as it all works. Time will tell. Oh, also got the horn hooked up there. Yeah, so hopefully, just got to do a few little bits there. Get a battery, do the tail light, and that'll be it. Right, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Just doing some of these bullets. So first of all, just need to tin the wire. I'm sort of having to do it up here because I've got the wires attached. Right, try and do this without knocking the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got a little brass bullet there, just stuck in a hole drilled in a piece of wood. I'm just going to heat it up. Basically fill it with solder. Try not to overfill it while it's still hot. Take my wire, shove it in there, take the heat away, and let it cool down without moving it. should be about there. Yeah, it's got a little bit of overflow on the end there to clean off. And that's basically I'm going to solder these bullets on. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need a four-way connection for all these positives, these positive earths, positive grounds to go on to. So I will get the camera out of the way before I knock it over, because it's a bit precarious. Bounced on a box and a couple of bits of the ramp. So yeah, I'll get the rest of these done. So that's the four-way Lucas type connection there for all my grounds. I've also made a little bit of a change. This was just interfering too much with the side panel, so I've actually set that back a little bit further, so this isn't out so far. I might still have to just shave a bit off those fins there, but I don't think that will affect anything. And I've also not going to mount that on there. I've actually cut the bracket down and just used it as a backing plate. I think I'm just going to sticky pad it on top of the battery so it sits much lower. I was having trouble trying to get the side panel on, and I've still got some issues with that. So you can see I've now fitted the little extender piece there. That is where the this is a pattern bracket which I got for this bike, and I think I've got it fitted correctly. I think it just bolts direct to these fixings off the frame, also where the coil brackets mount. I don't think these are quite correct, but they were what were on the bike. But you can see when I put the side panel on, that end looks about okay, seems to line up where it should, and the side panel comes around nicely. But on here, the actual fixing hole, which should be in the centre of this part here, isn't. It's over here. And that does actually appear to be leaning forward a little bit. So yeah, I need to look into that a little bit more and see what is going on with that, because it's supposed to be the right bracket. But yeah, doesn't quite line up properly. Although these side panels with these cutouts are actually for sort of 1966 bike, but this is a 67, so I don't know if it's a different bracket here or anyway. I'm gonna have to do something about it, because yeah, that, let's see, but that is kind of there lined up, and that one is just way out, and that hole is a little bit off, I think, but not that much off. So yeah, I might even end up having to make a bracket myself for here. Height seems to be about right, but yeah, hole position doesn't seem right. Right, got my rear light, which I'm going to fit, which is the same as what I've got on my B31. Purists might say that's not the right type of light. That should be a what's the standard one, Lucas 590 type. whereas this is a Lucas 564 type, or a copy of anyway. But as you probably realise by now, I'm actually doing a copy of a BSA Wasp, which at the factory wouldn't have had lights at all, hence the baits at the front there, because obviously we've got no lugs on these forks. But dealers did do lighting kits, and I did actually find some paperwork for one of the dealers. And they said, or their parts list stated a Bates front light and a Lucas 564 type rear light. So that's what I'm going to fit. Although I dare say they probably would have used a, I don't know, bantam bracket or something like that to fit it on with, rather than these sort of modern chrome replica things. But they are quite easy to fit and do look okay, although that is going to be a bit of a funny angle, I think, actually, looking at that, because it's obviously got to fit below this bar here. This is just where these wires are sticking. Let's just have a look. Yeah, so it might be a little bit pointing downwards, but I think that'll be okay. Yeah, so I'll have a little play around with that, see how best we've got to fit that on there. I've got to drill some holes for the wires, and this also only has a 2-wire, so I assume one is stop and one is, sorry, getting shot. I assume one is a stop and one is a main beam, as far as I can remember. So I'm just going to have to figure out an earthing point for my positive earth there. Yeah, so I'll have a look at that, and I'll see how that looks. I've just sat the seat on there, and yeah, that just is not going to look right down there, popping pointing downhill. It really does need to be, which is where the original ones are, up there, which would mean cutting some material out of that, and that is chrome, so that is going to rust like buggery, so I'm not keen on that. I did consider, this is the one off the original one off the B31, which kind of looks okay, but is a little bit large. And again, I would need to cut, although I could repaint it, would need to cut some bits out there to go with this rail, and that's an original, so I'm not too keen on cutting that. Did even dig up a little old original bantam D1 rear light, and thought about mounting that on there, which for sort of off-road size would look right, wouldn't be too heavy, and then I would have to make some sort of bracket up, and if I'm going to do that, might as well use this. So I did look at some bantam ones, and they are, these are bantam ones, they are open on the sides. That's kind of similar to that, but they haven't got this built in there. They're just a, you know, long piece with where the number plate goes. So I could go for a just mounting that off a little bracket and stick on number plate, trialy style. Yeah, don't know really. Best thing to do. Gonna have to think about that and see what I decide. Whichever way, it either means making a bracket, getting a bantam bracket, or cutting that one up. Which again, I'm not that keen on cutting anything. I can't see any way around it really. So, jury is out. One bantam rear light number plate fixing, mounting. I can paint that. Somebody's taken the number off there for some reason. I don't know why. But, there we are. So just have to rub that back and give that a coat of paint. But apart from that, I think if I mount that somewhere around there, that will do the job nicely. Again, doesn't look quite so bulky or out of place. There's a little chrome one. I think that should work quite well. So I'll get this marked out, drilled, fixed on, and get this painted up as well. Get that rust off there. But I think that will work okay. Yeah. And like I say, I could get the original one, put on, you know, the what is meant to be on here, the A65 type, but I don't really like them actually. I think they look a bit, especially the ones with the reflectors on the side. Not that keen on them. I think this will suit more what I'm trying to do with this bike. Right, so I've just marked the centre line down there, and what I'm going to do is drill a hole there first for that fixing. We'll get that in place, then I'll mark the two holes up here and also a hole for the cable to go through. That's that one drilled, so I will just put that on there. I'll find a nut just to tighten that up. Pity that doesn't actually sit square to there, but I'm sure that'll be fine. Yeah, so I'll tighten that bottom up and then I'll mark these ones up here and drill them. So I just did a pilot drill, and that's a 7mm. So yeah, a little bit of wiggle room for the 1/4 inch on that. Right, those fixings done, and hole there, that one there for the electrics to come through. I just put a grommet in there, so this should all goes in there. Once that starts to tighten down, that looks like they're off, but that's actually because this top of this is twisted a little bit. But once they're clamped, once they're bolted down, that will pull that all straight. So what I'll do now is just get this painted, and hopefully if I just do the piece there, the back, the rest of it is pretty much okay. I'll mask all that off, or mask that bit off there anyway, paint that, then I should be able to get that fitted today. That's that all fitted, wired in. See that under there? I don't know. Right, so let's give this a little test. Get this on the tripod. So it should have stop. Yep. Lights. Yep. Lights and stop. Right, that's all looking good. Right, final connections done, apart from the stop weight switch, which I'm waiting for. I was going to fit one of those universal type ones, but yeah, they're not that great, so I will have to just take these little eyelets off here and change them to bullets. So I'm just waiting for that switch to turn up, and that'll be the last thing really on the electrics. Yeah, and I just made a little bit of a change. I don't know if I made this clear before. So I've done a few little videos and forgotten what I've said and what I hadn't said. So this end fuse here, so this is the position 3 on the ignition switch. So I've got headlights, speedo light, tail light, feed there and going out that way, and I also had the stop weight switch on there, which obviously is not a good idea because it's not going to work unless the lights are switched on. So I've actually moved, which is the white wire, so I've moved it onto here. So I've now got that connected up with my horn on this fuse here, and they are fed direct off the battery via this link cable, which I could, in theory, loop that in with this one, which is the ignition, which is position 2 on the ignition switch. I could just loop that in with that one really, so it doesn't come on until the ignition is actually switched on, because at the moment the horn and the brake light will work without the ignition switched on. Not that really matters. The only reason I did this in the first instance was just following the original BSA wiring convention, and I think they do it like that because the older horns, the older type horns, use quite a high ampage, whereas this is a modern one. This is only 1.5 amp. I think they're something like 15 amps, the original horns, which is probably why they wire it like that. So I could really just link it into that one, that'd be fine. In hindsight, that'd have been better just to run a second wire from the ignition, because there's a spare terminal on ignition position 2. Could have run that in this main loom back and straight into there. That would have probably been a better solution, but I suppose just keep the wire count down, doing it with a little link like that. So that's something which may change. I'll just see how it goes. It's probably, you know, not really going to be a problem, I don't think. And also for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you probably noticed that the exhaust and the speedo are fitted. You haven't missed anything. There will be videos coming out on that. It's just I've sort of got a little bit out of sync because I was waiting for that to turn up. Yeah, and I might even, I have got an original Lucas 564 lens. I might even actually put that on there in place of this modern one. Probably a bit more in keeping. Yeah, so that is basically, apart from, like I say, the brake switch, that is the all the electrics done. Yeah, and that's been quite interesting doing that. Yeah, I think that's, apart from the bantam, I did make a full loom for the when I did the bantam before. So apart from patching old ones up, that's the first sort of biggish loom I've made up. On the GT380 I had to make a half loom up for that. Yeah, that was quite interesting, and I do quite like doing wiring, so yeah, not a problem for me at all. Yeah, so coming along nicely, and hopefully not too long. Should have everything up and running. Oh, and I have checked because I have had it running. Once I got these fitted, I did fire it up, and yeah, it's charging okay. Battery's charging okay. No problem with that. 14 and 14.5, I think that was volts I was getting. So yeah, that'll be fine.